Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Podserve, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first. The new book by Charles Z. Barwon is a clear and compelling theological exploration of Christ's dual nature. It's titled Jesus Christ, Fully God, Fully Man. We're going to talk all about it right now. Charles is here with me. Charles, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Charles, can you tell me all about what you've written in Jesus Christ, Fully God, Fully Man?
So the book Jesus Christ, Fully God, Fully Man is basically an explanation of why we say Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man. The book is basically based on the affirmation of Chalcedon. And at Chalcedon, Jesus Christ's dual nature, that is, Jesus Christ being fully man and fully God, was affirmed. And so the book takes its cue from the Council of Chalcedon and explains that Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man, and then discusses the significance of Jesus Christ being fully God, fully man for the Christian faith.
Charles, what kinds of readers do you think that this would connect with the most?
Well, the book is intended for lay people. Basically, it is so clearly explained. A lot of people struggle with understanding why we say Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man. A lot of people struggle with Jesus Christ being man. That's one of the most, I would say, intimidating for a lot of Christians. How can their God be man? But this book is intended for people and help them understand why we say Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man. It's for pastors, it's for church leaders, and it's for anybody who is interested in just understanding why Christians call Jesus Christ God and why Christians believe Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man. It is clear, it is easy to read. Anybody who lay their hands on it will understand fully and clearly why Christians say Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man.
Charles, what was that inspiration behind the book? What was that spark that made you say, hey, I want to write this book?
It's basically the confusion that I see on people's faces when you say Jesus Christ can be worshipped. People kind of take a look at you when you say Jesus Christ is God. People take a look at you. I mean, that confusion on people's faces. And just trying to help people understand that Jesus Christ is indeed fully God and fully man. That inspired me, the deep interest to just clarify that and help people understand that, especially people who are church-going people who most often would just listen to their pastor, listen to what the pastor says, and without any question, accept what the pastor says. But then when it comes to really explaining their faith and explaining why they believe what they believe, they kind of get stuck. This book is intended for them. It helps them understand their faith, particularly when Christians say Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man.
Charles, what does your writing background look like? Do you have experience doing this kind of thing?
Well, I've written a lot of materials, but I wouldn't say they're all published. But in a way, I wrote I'm from Liberia, West Africa, and during the Civil War, they're wearing any books and stuff like those. So I had to write materials for students to read, Bible students, people in Bible colleges, but it was never published like this one is published. So this pretty much would be my first book. I have two other books that are on the way that's being published, being prepared for publication. And one has to do with anyone who is in church leadership. It's actually called a complete guide to members in church leadership. And the goal of that book is basically to put in the hands of anybody who is in church leadership, lay people who head auxiliaries or departments. A lot of these people come to be elected or appointed, for service in the church, but a lot of them do not get that much of a training as to how to go about it. And my second book is about that. And the third one is the Christian Minister's Guide to Church Growth. And it's basically based on Ephesians 4, and it just uses that passage and other resources to prepare ministers, whether they're young ministers, whether it's a new church plan, whether it's the old church plan, but it's basically put tools in their hands to transform their church, turn their church around, and get the growth that they so much desired.
Well, I think readers are going to find this book a blessing. Again, it's titled Jesus Christ, Fully God, Fully Man. It's written by Charles Z. Barwon and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So head on over to places like Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes or traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick this up. Charles, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Author Amy Lawrence has written a powerful autobiographical testimony titled Made in China, Raised in Hong Kong, Matured in the United States, A Journey of Faith. Amy is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and we're going to talk all about it. Amy, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Amy, can you tell me all about Made in China, Raised in Hong Kong, Matured in the United States? What are readers going to be getting into here?
Well, number one is my life story, and I was inspired to write that because of my journey, basically. I was from a abusive family, to the point where when I decided to start the book, my life has changed tremendously, and I was hoping that this book can help the younger generations to know that, yes, we all going to face obstacles, we're all going to face a lot of unfair situations. However, if we believe in God, if we trust in God, God is going to lead us through all this trouble and give us the peace that we need. And I think if I can get through that in one piece, a lot of kids can also be able to be encouraged to the point where they, believe that, with God, all things are possible.
Well, that's a great message, Amy. What sorts of readers do you think this would connect with the most?
Well, I was hoping to be a little younger generations because of the mental health issues that is bombarding the United States. A lot of kids going through their puberty, and then they think that, their depression is all because of their bad circumstances, their parents, their things. But, a lot of time we don't understand is that, when the hormone is going crazy, we all have those kind of thoughts. And, with that, on top of that, if they get all those unfair situations happen in their life, then they become more depressive and suicidal. So I was hoping that with my experience, I know what they are feeling, I know what they are thinking of, I know what they are trying to do, and to give them the encouragement that, if we can get through this, things are going to get better.
Are you new to this, Amy? Have you written or published before this?
Nope. This is my first book, and might be the only book.
So being your first one, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing, the whole thing?
Well, actually, I was inspired. I was, if you read my book, God, I like to talk to God a lot, He wanted me to write that book several years before I would actually sit down and write it. And then it just happened that I have a few months off. So, instead of sitting home and doing nothing, then I start writing it. So it took me it's a very short book. I am a little ADHD. So, my book is very, to the point and not going back, not repeating everything. That's why it's so short. So, from the time I started writing to the time I published, I would say maybe within 10 months.
So you had your manuscript ready and you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith. Amy, what would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing process for you?
There is no challenge whatsoever. That's why, I believe that this is God's will. This is what He wanted me to do. I contacted about 2 or 3 publishers, and then a publisher contacted me right away. And then I submitted my draft, and then they just say, yeah, we would like to publish for you.
What's the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
I don't know. The most rewarding aspect of it right now is the book is, basically I don't know what the sales is going on. I only bought the one that I want to give it to my friends and family. It is accomplishment. It's another thing that, to me, I being obedient to God, and I did what He asked me to do, and the rest is up to Him.
Well, this book definitely has a great message. Again, it's titled Made in China, Raised in Hong Kong, Matured in the United States, A Journey of Faith. It's written by Amy Lawrence and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Amy, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
The audiobook edition of Stratosphere, the novel by Brendan Weber, it's just came out, and this is a thrilling mix of fact and fiction that takes readers on an unforgettable ride. Brandon is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to talk all about it. Brandon, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Brandon, can you tell me all about what readers and audiobook listeners are going to get into whenever they open up Stratosphere?
Oh, they're going to get into a mob conspiracy. A couple bikers that are out on a little ride, so to speak, and they find themselves mixed up with mob, which everybody thinks is gone in Vegas at the time. Come to find out they're still alive and well, and a lot of twists and turns, and all they're trying to do is stay alive while other people are chasing them down, and it turns into a mixed up bag of it goes one way, it goes the other way, but they get themselves in a little mess.
And what sort of a reading audience were you writing this for?
It's definitely an adult book. I don't know, just about everybody that's been to Vegas will enjoy it. You know, bikers will enjoy it, you know. Yeah, they're bikers, but they're the good bikers, not the bad bikers. So they just find themselves in a little bit of a mix-up.
And speaking of Vegas, we're talking about the Stratosphere there, and I'd love the wordplay that you have here, Stratosphere. So can you tell me about your thinking behind that?
Well, I don't know. I went into the Stratosphere a couple times, and it came to mind where everything kind of comes to a conclusion, kind of right there. You know, it's the highest tower. I know stories about the Stratosphere when it was being built and everything else. So I just kind of mixed up a little fact and fiction. Don't want to give up the ending, but there's sex, violence, drugs, crooked cops, the mob, a lot of computer stuff going on.
So have you written or published before this?
Never. I tell it to you, I wrote this sitting on a bunk. I got thrown in prison for a while because I was being a bad boy back then. I ended up sitting in the cell with an old guy that he was imprisoned in the 70s for a double homicide in Vegas. And his mom used to run with the mob and the good old boys back then. So he told me stories. I took some of his stuff, mixed it all up, and threw some fiction in there and stuff. But, yeah, I typed this with two fingers because I don't know how to type, and I can't spell worth of shit either. So I was up there just pecking away at it for about a year. It started out as one story, and it turned into another story. So it was occupying my time, you know, keep me out of trouble.
So what was that spark? What made you say, hey, this is a great story. I got to get this published?
Oh, well, I didn't actually. I wrote it, and I started handing the page form off to some buddies in prison and stuff, and they started reading it, and they're avid readers. They read 2-3 books a day. You know, they just read through books, and I gave it to them, and every one of them said, man, you should really do something with this. This is good. That made my heart feel good. But I got out, got my life together, and just kind of forgot about it. And I got back together with my girl here about 10 years ago. We were together back when I was running them up pretty heavy in Vegas. And she got sober and clean 27 years this month, matter of fact. So it was sitting on the shelf here, and about 2 years ago, she decided to pluck it off the shelf and start giving it a read. I walked in one day, and she goes, you know, that book's really good. And I said, well, I'm glad you like it. She goes, you're being published. And I said, what? What are you saying? She goes, I sent it to a publisher, and they like it, and they're going to publish it. I said, well, shit. Okay.
And I could only imagine what was going through your head whenever it was a real thing. You're holding Stratosphere in your hands for the first time, Brandon. What was that like for you, man?
Oh, man. Finally accomplished something, you know. it was incredible when I got that box of books. I was like, wow, check this out.
Well, it definitely sounds like readers and audiobook listeners are going to love this book. Again, it's titled Stratosphere. It's written by Brandon Weber and published by the Audiobook Network. Head on over to places where you normally get your audiobooks and you'll be able to find it, like Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. Brandon, it's been so wonderful talking with you tonight. Thanks again for being on the show.
Well, thank you very much.
Author Jonathan Palm has written a compelling novel titled El Rancho Ruiz. That's what we're talking about right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Jonathan is here with me. Jonathan, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Well, thanks for having me.
Jonathan, can you tell me all about El Rancho Ruiz and what readers can expect to find here?
Well, it's an action-packed Western story. An aristocrat in Spain dreams of establishing a ranch in the New World in the 1800s, northern Mexico. And so he gathers up his wife and daughter and sails to Mexico and ends up in Mexico City, but he wants to get up into northern Mexico, into Texas. And so he makes quite an expedition and faces a lot of trouble getting there. It's not an easy trip. And it's also at the same time that Texas is working on its independence from Mexico. So we have that going on. That's the historical part. And then we have Senor Ruiz going all the way up and establishing his ranch. He ends up on the Texas side of the Rio Grande, very near El Paso, Texas.
So would you say readers of historical fiction would be best for this?
Yes, this is a historical fiction, and it's a Western, of course. And I've had people who have never read a Western before. They read my book and they say, wow, they really enjoyed it. So that's one thing. Also, I didn't think women would enjoy this book, but a friend of mine who is a woman said, yes, very much so. But then they wanted things in the book that I didn't really have, like the color of the woman's hair and her eyes and all that. I didn't get too much into that. But then once I started, I found it wasn't that bad. I could throw in that. And she said, yes, the girls really like to know that. So that's something I learned. And so, yeah, women like the book, men, of course, people who like historical fiction, I start with. But even those who don't read a lot really enjoyed reading this book. They tell me, the feedback is they tell me. So that's very gratifying to me.
Jonathan, what was your inspiration behind writing this?
Well, I read a lot of Western stories mostly, and I thought, gee, I have some good tales that I could tell. So I just started writing. It took a while because I'm not a professional writer or anything like that. I'm an engineer, and I'm retired from the state of Nevada. So I had the time to put into it, and that's how I got going.
What does your writing background look like, Jonathan? Have you been published much before this?
No, I'm a first-time published author.
So being your first one, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
Yes, it was. Well, I think it probably took from start to finish 3 years. If I could actually just sit down and write it, I could probably do it in 6 months, but it was spread out over 3 years because I've got things to do and other things came up. And I even went back to work for a little while. But yeah, it took quite a while to finish the book. And then I just saw an ad on the internet for Covenant Books. And so I called them and they said, send us the manuscript, and they liked it and published it. So they're my publisher.
So when you look down the road, do you see yourself writing and publishing more?
Well, I am working on a sequel right now. Actually, I've got a third book. I think this project will really be a trilogy when I'm finished. The first book is published. I'm working on the sequel, and I think the publisher's kind of waiting to see how the first book does in the marketplace. And if it's successful, then we'll publish the sequel. And then even the third book, I'm probably about halfway through the third book in the series. That's all I have planned right now, just to finish this project, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, I think readers are going to love this book. Again, it's titled El Rancho Ruiz. It's written by Jonathan Palm and published by Covenant Books. So head on over to places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick this up. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling me all about your work. It's been really nice to talk tonight.
Yes, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
I'm looking at the new book by Heidi Martin. It's titled Finding Roses Among the Thorns. And we'll be talking all about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Heidi is with me. Heidi, thanks for joining me tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Heidi, can you tell me all about what you've written in Finding Roses Among the Thorns?
The book is about true stories that happened to me, whether it's at home or at work or while traveling. Each story has a biblical principle and then has humor intertwined with it. So there are stories about trips to Ireland and to Italy. And there's some funny stories in there about how a coworker and I launched another coworker off of an office chair. There's some stories about, and then just topics about fear and, a time to be timid, a time to be bold. Just everyday happenings that happen to us and that we can turn a negative outlook into a positive.
Heidi, what kinds of readers do you think that this would connect with the most?
It's not geared to anyone in particular. I had a 5th grade girl read it to an 80-year-old man. So, and all ages in between. So it's just a book for anyone who just wants a lighthearted, easy-to-read book about how to change the negative to the positives and how to find the roses among the thorns.
So what was your inspiration behind writing this?
One was a lady by the name of Christina. I had met her during a series of stressful days. And through that week, she just always remained calm and always kept a positive outlook and positive attitude no matter what negative things were happening around her. And she always was able to find humor in the difficult times. So she's the one that really inspired me to the fact that, you're going to have negatives every day in your life. And it's just our responsibility to either dwell the negative or find a positive. And then the second part was just, I was talking to a friend about a trip I came back and I was telling her about funny, embarrassing stories. And then she was the one that encouraged me. She was like, you should write a book about all your adventures you had. So that night I wrote the first two stories.
When it comes to writing and publishing, are you experienced in this, or is this all kind of a new thing for you?
This is all new. I never thought I would have an author attached to my name. So the first book.
Was this a long process then for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
The writing, it took about 5 months to complete it. And I started in May, and I had the book printed and ready to sell by May, so about a year. Yeah, so not too long.
So you had your manuscript ready. You started working with your publisher, Christian Faith. Heidi, what would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing end of things?
I would say I'm second guessing to see if I had, my opinions and my thoughts and how my outlooks on life, if it was other people could read it and relate to it, or kind of just being like, if it's really going to bring glory to God, that I was hoping to. The idea of writing a book was, like I said, it was something I never thought I would do. So it's just kind of just all new to me.
So now that it's out there, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I think it was just the fact that I could surprise people that I wrote a book. Actually, the whole process, I only told a couple of my friends. Maybe 4 people knew that I was doing it. So it was just fun to hand a physical book that I wrote to friends and family that had no idea that I was doing it.
So when you look ahead, do you see yourself writing and publishing more, do you think?
I don't have anything in the making, but I wouldn't say I would never do it again.
Well, a lot of our listeners are authors who are just starting out. Heidi, do you have some advice maybe that you could offer them?
I would say just don't compare yourself to other authors, whether it's your success or your failures. And just have a notebook or something handy. So throughout the day, different things will come to you and just jot it down. It's much easier to delete than to add, I felt.
Well, this sounds like a wonderful book. Again, it's titled Finding Roses Among the Thorns. It's written by Heidi Martin and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Heidi, thank you again for coming on the show. It's been great talking with you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Vlad the Hairless and his best buddy, JJ. Well, that's the new book written by J.A. Trabakoolas. And we're going to talk all about it right now. The author, Jason, is here with me. Jason, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Jason, can you tell me all about Vlad the Hairless and his best buddy, JJ? What can readers expect to find here?
Well, Vlad is a Sphinx hairless cat that I've had for about 6 years, and JJ is his buddy who I've had for about 13 years. And they love hanging out with each other and playing around the house. And it just, watching them day to day just kind of inspired me to put some of their antics together in a book.
Jason, what kinds of readers do you think would love this the most?
I think it's great for younger kids. My grandkids, they love the book.
So what does your writing background look like, Jason? Do you have experience doing this kind of thing?
This is actually my first attempt at a children's book. It's something that I've wanted to do for quite a few years and finally just sat down and put pen to paper and thought I'd give it a chance.
Wow. So being your first one, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing, publishing, and everything?
Yeah, there was definitely a learning curve, but, it was really fulfilling to get the book published and all finished. It was a good road to travel.
And you have a great publisher, Covenant Books. So once you started working with them, what did you find to be the most challenging part about that publishing process?
Once I got connected with them, I don't know that tough is really the right word. I mean, they really made things pretty easy for a first-time author.
And in a book like this, the illustrations are so important. Jason, was that a smooth process for you to iron out?
It was. I mean, there were some hurdles finding the right person that could really get my ideas down on paper, but I finally found the right person, and he really made it happen.
Yeah, you put a lot of time and a lot of hard work into this. So once it was finally a real thing, you're holding Vlad the Hairless and his best buddy JJ in your hands for the first time, Jason. What was that moment like for you?
It was great. These two, if you follow along the stereotypes, dogs and cats shouldn't get along as well as some might think. But these two, from day one of bringing Vlad home, JJ kind of ruled the house, and he took him right under his paw, and they were just great friends. And, this book is about helping JJ overcome, some of his dog ways, I guess you could say.
And so now it's out there, you're finally published. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
I think for me, it was when my kids and grandkids got the book and read it for the first time and looked through it and just, how happy they were because obviously they grew up with these animals, and to see a story about them, it really made me feel pretty good seeing the happiness it brought them.
So when you look down the road, do you see yourself maybe writing and publishing more?
I do have another adventure already in the works.
So while you're writing, is writer's block or anything like that a challenge that you have to overcome?
No, I think for me, it was fairly easy. With Vlad and JJ being in my life for so long, it's pretty easy to put down some of their antics on paper, to be honest.
Well, so many of our listeners right now are authors just starting out. Jason, do you maybe have some advice that you could toss out there for them?
I would have to say, if you have an idea, just go after it. I mean, bring it to fruition, make it happen.
So I've noticed, talking with so many authors here over the years, how many love to read as well. Jason, would you call yourself an avid reader?
I would. I do enjoy reading. With the grandkids, I find myself reading much more things on their level than my level. But I do love to read.
What a wonderful book. Again, it's titled Vlad the Hairless and His Best Buddy, JJ. It's written by J.A. Trabakoolas and published by Covenant Books. Find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been really great to talk with you tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk to you also.
I'm looking at the new novel by David S. Lambert. It's titled The Accidental Hero, and we'll be talking all about it right now. David is here with me at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. David, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
David, can you tell me what you've written about in The Accidental Hero?
Well, it's a book about people who are kind of at the end of their rope and trying to find their way, and they stumble into a pretty awesome adventure, and they find magical items along the way, and life takes incredible twists and turns, and there's political intrigue, and based in a fantasy environment, it's a fun, quick read.
David, when it comes to the kind of readers that you were thinking of, do you think the fantasy fans are going to be most into this?
Sure. Fantasy, young adult, adventure, anybody who loves J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit or someone who loves Huck Finn will probably find that they really enjoy it.
So how did this inspiration come about? What sparked you to say, hey, I want to write this book?
Well, it started with my brother-in-law when I was a little kid telling me stories about The Hobbit, and most of them were his own made-up versions of it, but it was a lot of fun. And when I was about 6, I read The Hobbit and went through the whole Lord of the Rings series and was pretty much hooked. And, of course, Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and, all the classic writers from Mark Twain to Melville were inspirational to me in reading. And as I grew older, I wrote several poems and books and different things. And, my children actually inspired me to want to actually write a book. And so I sat down and told myself a story and wrote it down as I did.
So is this the first time you've been published then?
It is.
So being your first one, was this a long process for you, the writing and publishing and everything?
It was a long process total. Leading up to the writing of the book, I had lots of ideas, and a lot of them I culminated into this book over the years, but I wasn't actively writing at the time. So when I finally sat down to do it, I actually wrote the book in about a month, maybe a little less. The longest part of it was getting it published.
Yeah, once you started working with your publisher, Newman Springs, what did you find to be the most challenging part about that end of things?
Probably just me being anxious to get it going and get the book on the shelves and the final product. The editing process actually went pretty easily. It just waiting for each step and the long wait because I was excited to finally have a book out there.
Man, I could only imagine what was going through your head when it was finally real. You got that first copy, you were holding The Accidental Hero in your hands for the first time, David. What was that like for you?
It was pretty neat. It was something that is tangible. When you have a dream and you finally make it reality, it's an awesome feeling.
And so now you're finally published, your work is out there. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Well, I think it's that in itself, just having something that'll survive me, something my kids can look at and say, this is what my dad wrote. And, my grandkids will be able to say, hey, Grandpa was a writer and he wrote about dragons and magic and all that fun stuff.
So when you look down the road, do you see yourself writing and publishing more?
I'm actually about 3/4 of the way through writing my second book. It's a sequel to The Accidental Hero. I'm excited to get it on the page.
Wow, David, you've been writing a lot. Is writer's block ever a thing you have to get through?
No, not at all. I have an overactive imagination, an overactive mind, and I come up with ideas while I'm trying to sleep or while I'm driving in the car. And, so all I have to do is take the time to sit down in front of my computer, and there it goes.
Well, it sounds like readers are really going to love this book. Again, it's titled The Accidental Hero. It's written by David S. Lambert and published by Newman Springs Publishing. So you can find it pretty much everywhere, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. David, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Travels with Sage, Helping at the Hospital. That's the name of the new book by Lizzie Duemig. And that's what we're talking about right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. The author, Lizzie, is here with me. Lizzie, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Corey. It's good to be here. And I have Sage with me as well, my dog buddy, who is the star of the book.
I'm so glad that you're both joining me tonight. Lizzie, can you tell me all about Travels with Sage?
Yeah, so the book is inspired by real events. It is about some of the experiences that Sage and I encountered when I started to get her trained as a therapy dog. I have just this incredible rapport and friendship with my dog. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I went through some difficult things, and when I was healing, she was just this incredible comfort for me. And I felt like I could share that with other people because she's such a sweet support, unconditional love. So I wanted to get her trained to see if she could help in other situations, like at schools and nursing homes and hospitals. And we started going through this training, and I brought her into a hospital, and I just was watching this beautiful stuff happen. And she just was natural at it. And the story just kind of evolved in front of me, and I just felt like I had to write it down and didn't realize this was going to take off and turn into a book series. So it just organically came into being in this just beautiful way.
So what kinds of readers, Lizzie, do you think this would connect with the most?
It's interesting because I'm hitting a couple of different groups. I'm a first responder. I've been in law enforcement for a while. And I was also a teacher before I became an officer. So when I was writing this, I was tapping into my education background for kids, but also thinking about the trauma that people go through when they're, have some of these frontline jobs or, they get hurt or they're treating a family member. And I was trying to combine the two. And what ended up happening was a children's book came out of it. And what I've been seeing from the feedback is that it's hitting audiences from 2-year-olds to grandparents. So I'm getting feedback that the kids are just loving that they're seeing the illustrations and listening to the fun story about the dog that they can relate to. And then parents and grandparents are talking about how they love actually reading and engaging this story with the kids because it's got truth and relevance to it. So I'm hitting a lot of different age groups, but the book's reading target is kids probably between the age of 2 and 11 or 12.
Yeah, the illustrations are so important in a book like this. Lizzie, was that a smooth process overall for you?
It was an awesome process, actually. I have an incredible team that I worked with at Covenant Books. And the illustration process was really a collaborative effort. I found out the way that had worked was that the illustrators don't actually read the story. And it's so interesting. At first, I was confused about that, but it's because they wanted the illustrations to really come from the author's perspective and not the artist's interpretation of it, at least from the start. And I really appreciated that. And we had a back and forth where I developed the ideas and the concepts for the illustrations, and then they turned those into these beautiful illustrations. And then we had this back and forth where we were adding details until we got it just right. And they used real pictures of the dog to create the character. And one of the other things that has been relatable in terms of the feedback is the parents and grandparents have told me that when they're reading with the kids, when they get to the end of the book, they'll see real pictures of Sage. And they'll see that this is actually a real dog. So it's this fictional story that comes to life based on something that's nonfiction, and the kids are just loving that.
What a beautiful book. Again, this is titled Travels with Sage, Helping at the Hospital. It's written by Lizzie Duemig and published by Covenant Books. So head on over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes or traditional brick and mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick this up. Lizzie, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody gets to experience the fun that Sage brings into their life.
The Father's First Love. This is an inspiring and heartfelt exploration of God's restorative love and personal faith journey written by Sedrick Stevenson. And we'll be talking all about it right now. Sedrick is here with me at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Sedrick, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Sedrick, can you tell me all about The Father's First Love and what you've written about here?
Well, like I said, it's a book that is about the love that the Father has for you, and just something that you can read daily, just a reminder, because sometimes I know that life throws a lot of challenges our way, and that's why we have to have something just to remind us that the Father yet still is mindful of us, and still got a lot of love, and yet has not been abandoned. And the book it's also a journal. So at the end of the day, your experience with the Father, the things that He showed you, things that He shared with you, you can write down your daily activity, and it's also the way I'm designing it that where so many of the things daily of the stuff that you write down, it'll wind up being a testimony that you may want to share with other folks. That's the way I'm trying to. It's the thought that I had in mind when I put it out there.
Sedrick, what kinds of readers do you think this would connect with the most?
Well, like I said, high school, college, young adults, as well as seniors, anyone that wants to learn about our Heavenly Father.
What does your writing background look like, Sedrick? Are you experienced in this kind of thing?
Well, this will be my first time doing it, and I'll share a little bit with you about this. My mom had a baby book, so over the time, she write down, things that I did, pictures and stuff like that. So when I became of age, she gave it to me, and I got born again at an early age. And so I wrote down some things in there. So put my book away. And 2025, I found my baby book. I was going through my pages, and I ran across something that's written in my baby book. And the title of my book is like right there. And it freaked me out. I said, whoa. So it just has been in me so many years, and now He brought it back to let me know that this is something that you had. And He just reminded me of, that He hadn't forgot about me. It tripped me out. That's about the best way I can say. Unbelievable.
I could only imagine what was going through your head whenever the first copy came in, and The Father's First Love is a real thing in your hands, Sedrick. What was that moment like for you?
Well, like a mother just going through childbirth, and all of a sudden now the baby is born, and now it's real. It's reality. It's right there in your arms, and now you embrace it and you hold it. That was my experience. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this is crazy. It's a wonderful thing. Because, see, I will be the first author in my family. And so that's what stands out. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
So as you look ahead, do you see yourself writing and publishing more, do you think?
Yes, I have a part 2. The second version of this ready. I just got to do some editing, and I'm waiting for the funds to put it out there. And then I also have a third book that I've already started too. So I got about 3 chapters of that. And I'll share a little something that so far I've written 2 songs and a half just from this right here. This is something that I'm playing around with. In due time, due season, then it'll be out there in the market.
Well, we have a lot of listeners who are authors just starting out, Sedrick. Do you have maybe some advice that you could offer to them?
Yes. And this is what I'll be doing my daily routine and working. Every now and then I run across people and I'll tell them about my book. And they ask me, how did you get started? One thing you're going to do is just writing down little notes. Keep it simple. And then once you have everything written down, you can put it together. You can seek out, a publishing company, or you can learn how to do it yourself, be your own publisher. And so that's the process where I'm at right now. So, but like I say, it's a learning too.
Well, I think this book is going to bless a lot of readers. Again, it's titled The Father's First Love. It's written by Sedrick Stevenson and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Sedrick, it's been really great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Good to see you soon.
There's a new collection of poems written by Delbert Rich. It's titled Circles, and we're going to be talking all about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Delbert is here with me. Delbert, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Delbert, can you tell me all about Circles and what readers can expect to find when they get into it?
It's basically the experiences that I've had in life over the last 50 years. And I've said that there's something for everybody. There isn't probably a topic that somebody couldn't find in the poems that they wouldn't find interesting or couldn't identify with.
And tell me about the title Circles. What was the thought behind that?
Well, Circles is the title poem. It's the title of the book. And I've always joked it's the only poem that I've ever written that I can remember all the words so that I can share it with people very quickly, because there's only 15 words to the poem. And so that was, for me, it was just a natural that I've left it behind in so many different places that it was natural for me to put it up as the title. Basically, it's a poem that takes you around as far as the different aspects of life.
What kinds of readers do you think would be really into this, Delbert?
I have joked that this book would make great restroom reading if you do that. A lot of the poetry is relatively short. I tend to be kind of concise when I write, but the topics range from mental health to nuclear war to a few Western stories because I like the Old West. There's a wide range of topics and thoughts, and if you're a thoughtful person that wants to have something that may make you stop and think a second, Circles might be the right book for you.
Is this your first time being published then?
Yes, this is my first book.
How long did this take you overall, the writing, publishing, whole thing?
Well, the writing has been a 50-year work because I started when I was a freshman in college. At 68, I recently had my 50th high school reunion. So the poetry itself has been a 50-year process. The actual publishing process was about a year. And I was guided very, very well throughout that process.
Yeah, you have a great publisher, Covenant Books. What would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing process for you?
For me, it was the repeated reading to edit for do I want to change this word or change that word and that kind of thing. Some of the poems I wrote, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so going back and reading them 5 or 6 times was kind of a tiresome task in a way, only because I'd read them, a few hundred times before anyway.
And then that day came, it was finally a real thing. You're holding Circles in your hands. It was a real book. Delbert, what was that moment like for you?
It was fantastic. The first time I opened one of them, looked at it, looked at the print, I was just thrilled. For me, it was a kid on Christmas morning. That was the way I've described it all along. That got that one thing on Christmas morning that he'd been asking for the whole time.
So now finally your work is out there. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
For me, it's a legacy for my kids. But also, for me, I would like to think that anybody who picks up the book might be able to find something that encourages them on any given day or guides them in some way through a life experience that they are going through, that there's something in my poetry that might help them and, guide them to the right place to be.
So when you look ahead, what would you say the chances are that you'll be publishing more?
There's probably a good chance. I know that the poetry that's in the book is largely the first 25 to 30 years that I wrote. The last 20 years would be a second book. And I know there's plenty of poetry that I have that it would be easy for me to do that. I just have to get up the ambition to get it taken care of.
Well, this sounds like a great book. Again, it's titled Circles, written by Delbert Rich and published by Covenant Books. Find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Delbert, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Corey, thank you very much for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.